JB, a lot of people have been asking, hey guys, you're not going to do anything during semifinal week? Oh, come on. You know us better than that. We're going to do something here. We just wanted to wait till, the celebrations were over, till plans were made this weekend. Our own plans are made. I am flying down to Belton. I was trying to urge you to come and grab some barbecue with me down there, but not happening. And a lot of people have asked where you are at Del Val this weekend. So your fans are getting a little restless with you, sir. I hope you do show up at a game soon.
I'll try. I'm working on it.
But we have some semifinal action to talk about here. This is the deepest into a season that we have ever gone, because obviously this is the deepest in the season that a formerly Liberty League team, when we were doing it as that show for 9 seasons, and now an East Region team have gone in that time. Congratulations to Brockport on reaching there. And we got a lot to talk about here. The semifinals, we have a very special guest interview for us. And then we're going to talk about some honors across the board that will affect the Salem trip that I'm going to take in just a week as well. Yeah. So let's start with the semifinals. And we have a game here between a Mount Union team that obviously is feeling kind of us against the world because of the various things that have gone on, and putting up 70 against Frostburg State might prove that a little bit more. And then, the whole end zone national anthem thing that occurred, we'll talk about in a moment, versus UW Oshkosh, and it's at Oshkosh because Oshkosh is the defending runner-up, and Mount Union did not reach the Stag Bowl round last year, and that's kind of how the tiebreaker works if there was a tie to be broken at that point. But Oshkosh's strength of schedule trumps Mount Union's strength of schedule anyway. So this is not fixed or rigged or anything like that, folks. This is the way it's supposed to work, and so it is going to work this way. So we have this game coming up, and Oshkosh definitely has what you would call, from what people are saying on the message boards, a lot of gray-shirted seniors, guys that are kind of in their 5th year along the way. That's a very common practice in schools. This is nothing unusual, but it just shows you the level of experience that's going to be on that field, the size that Oshkosh probably has on the field, and it makes this a very intriguing matchup. But do they have the horses here to beat a runaway train of sorts in terms of that Mount Union offense? James, go ahead and talk about the quarterback situation as well, to the degree you know
it. Yeah, well, your guess is as good as mine, Frank, because we did see sophomore quarterback Luke Porman get his first start of the season last weekend, and he did not fail to impress. It was the reason why, Karras went down to Florida to recruit him personally. That is Larry, the AD, who just was enshrined into the College Football Hall of Fame. So congratulations to him. Obviously, an incredible career. He obviously saw a lot in Luke, and Luke showed up big time. 12 for 16 passing, I think 355 yards, and a total of 7 touchdowns, 6 through the air, 1 that he ran in from 25 yards out. But that may not be good enough to get a second start. We'll see. I'm sure that will probably be a game time decision. Based on what we've seen with the 2 deeps, you can't always go off of those. So Oshkosh had better be prepared. Frank, the thing that I think is going to be the most interesting aspect of the game when you look at these 2 teams statistically is that they are both excellent passing offenses. But today's date is December 7th. So for those who remember Pearl Harbor, a little shout out to those folks, the 76th anniversary of that. But it also means that it's going to be probably 20 degrees or so, maybe snow in this is northern Wisconsin, like 2 hours north of Milwaukee. Can you throw the ball like these 2 teams do in that sort of weather? Remains to be seen, but it should be a great matchup either way.
Well, one team's used to it out of the 2, so they might have the better ability to do so. You're right, that weather could affect that game. It's going to be an interesting slugfest. Obviously not an East Region team involved in it, so we're not going to focus on it as much. But obviously if Brockport somehow can get through Mary Hardin-Baylor, the winner of this game would be their opponent in Salem, Virginia on Friday, December 15th in the Stag Bowl, the final one in Salem for some time. Yeah. But, let's throw, the curtain off this one a little bit and just say we got to make a prediction on this. How do you predict this? I've been struggling with this all week. I've got to still do my D3Football.com quick hits, so I guess I'm going to give stuff away here a little bit by saying what I'm thinking, but I want to hear you first. Give me some pluses and minuses to picking Mount Union and Oshkosh in a prediction.
Well, the thing that's interesting about this Titan team is that they are not your stereotypical. I mean, they have the size like that we've seen from past WIAC schools, but they are a more balanced offensive team than maybe the Whitewaters of years past. They can get Casper, their quarterback, who is a Gagliardi Trophy finalist, something I know we'll touch on in a little bit. I mean, he's the only finalist that has an opportunity to improve his case to win the award by the fact that he gets to play on Saturday. And if he has a big game against that really strong Mount Union defense, then that might be what puts him over the top. But as far as Mount Union goes, I mean, their quarterback play, whether it's Fulford or Porman, they're so highly accurate. That receiving core is so strong. And ultimately, it'll come down to can that Raiders defense, which is so effective at getting to the passer, at causing turnovers, basically creating havoc in the backfield. If they can have that kind of success against what's probably a giant line by the Titans, then I think Mount Union may be able to pull this one out.
Just want to catch one thing, because this is a very common mistake that I've seen throughout, and I just want to clarify this. Gagliardi Trophy votes have already been done. When the top 10 were released,
that's right,
that same vote is going to be utilized. We just know the top 4 vote getters, but we don't know who the champion is ultimately. Though he's had more weeks to prove his case than other players have that are up for the award right now, obviously, because the voting ended, I believe, on Monday of this past week.
Okay.
So you are right. On one hand, he has lasted long enough that people that were holding on to their ballots to the very end got to see another game from him, and it was a pretty good game at that. So you're saying, well, okay, hold on. I'll give you my score here, and then I'll say, give me a score. I think Mount Union's going to win this game. I think it's going to be a very good game. I don't think it's, kind of one of those false facade scenarios that we saw maybe in the Frostburg State run-up a little bit. We probably had higher hopes for Frostburg State that we probably should have, knowing what the situation in Mount Union was. Either way, whoever was starting as quarterback, it didn't matter in that respect. So I'm going to say Mount Union wins this game in a tight one. More low scoring, though, or lower scoring, 28-24 in favor of Mount Union. What do you think?
Yeah, I could see this being more like a 35-28 game. I do think that both offenses are strong enough that they're going to put up a decent amount of points. I think it's ultimately going to come down to a turnover or two, depending on the weather and other circumstances. I do feel, though, that Mount Union has a great sense of urgency. But the Titans, like you said, they have those fifth-year seniors. Might be a now or never situation. But I know there's something about this Raiders team, whether it's Luke or D'Angelo or quarterback. The defense especially seems to be really fired up, so I do think they'll pull it out in the end by a touchdown.
So we got a little bit more to look at here now in the Brockport Mary Hardin-Baylor game, and we got a great interview coming up. So let's talk about this game first, and then we'll kick it to the interview. This is a matchup that people are complaining about nationally. We're not going to lie about this. We're not going to cover this whole thing and blow smoke at everybody. People are saying the St. Thomas Mary Hardin-Baylor game last week should have been the semifinal. This should have been at best a quarterfinal type matchup, but because they gave the East region its own bracket, it sort of plays out differently than that. Well, we addressed this during our post-game show on Saturday. A lot of fun, by the way, doing that. It was great getting to talk to so many Brockport players, some of which ended up on all East region teams that we didn't even get to meet before this. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But you look at the statistics, and yes, you could claim that Mary Hardin-Baylor plays tougher teams generally, but Brockport is playing in the Empire 8, which is a nationally well-reputed conference. And so this, to me, when you look at the tail of the tape, and you had sent me these earlier, and I kind of knew some of this, but I learned a little bit more when you sent this to me, and we're going to run these on the screen as we talk about it a little bit here. But this game is not necessarily as one-sided as one might think. Because let's start looking at this. Let's look at the offensive numbers first a little bit here. Total offense for I say look at the numbers, and Jason's just thrown something aside and got the numbers.
Sorry about that. I got all excited. You got me all excited. We're talking about stats. All right.
Now let's go to the numbers here. We got total offense, and the ranking is on the left and the actual number is on the right. Total offense, 21st with 467 yards. That is for Brockport. And on Mary Hardin-Baylor's side of the ledger, only 113th out of 249 teams that I believe are ranked with a 383.8, which sort of signifies the struggles of having a freshman quarterback at times, maybe not as strong of an offense overall because of some youth, etc. But let's not kid ourselves. They can put up points in a hurry when they need to. You look at scoring offense, and I think that's where it comes out a little bit more, where Brockport's number 17 at 39.8 points per game. The scoring offense for Mary Hardin-Baylor is 20th at 39.2. So some equally matched offenses, I would say, in this game coming up. And am I missing something there? How would you characterize, just based on offense right now, how these teams match up?
Well, I think I would believe that Brockport probably has had more success with some of the explosive plays, gains of over 20, 30 yards. Mary Hardin-Baylor's statistics lean more towards a team that just sort of slowly wears you down. And when you see some of the games they played against national competition like Linfield, I mean, they're not scoring more than 24 points. They are effectively holding them to either 0 or 10. So their defense is certainly one of the tops in the nation. And actually, interestingly enough, when you look on the other side of the ball, Brockport's defense is no slouch either. The biggest difference I see, though, is that Brockport has been a little bit weaker against the pass. Both teams have excellent rush defenses, but I think Brockport's been a little more in some shootout type things, whereas Mary Hardin-Baylor has been able to, ride their defense to some lower scoring games throughout the year.
Let's look at this for a second here, Ray. It's a good point. In terms of passing yards allowed, they're mid-packing it basically. Brockport 122nd at 207.9, whereas it's 47th for Mary Hardin-Baylor at 173.5. You look at total defense, though. And this is, to me, a very interesting situation. Number 10 is Brockport, giving up 249.8 yards versus number 3, Mary Hardin-Baylor, at 219.5. You want to talk about two very good defensive teams, look no further than this game. Again, people will question who they did it against. I understand that. But here's sort of how I fall. Well, yeah. I was just going to say, look at this game from this perspective. Mary Hardin-Baylor has not blown many teams away in the first half this season. They have done it in the second half and won games ultimately, but some games have been close. Hardin-Simmons was 17-7, I believe, in the final. The Linfield game earlier in the season was not a runaway. The Linfield game later in the playoffs was more separated, but it wasn't exactly just, goodnight Linfield right off the bat. It built up to that ultimately. Yeah. And this last weekend against St. Thomas, I believe it was tied at halftime, if I remember correctly, and they pulled away, obviously, in the second half. So, to me, Brockport, with the defense they have, will keep this game close to start. I think this will be a game at halftime. Maybe not them leading it, or maybe not a tie, but Mary Hardin-Baylor, I don't see ahead by more than 1 to 1.5 possessions at halftime, which is a game, which is a lot more than a lot of people are giving them credit for, ultimately. Will Mary Hardin-Baylor pull away at that point? Maybe. Okay, that's the assumption. So as we kind of run some more stats here while you talk, go ahead. Give me your 30,000-foot view of this game and who's going to win it ultimately.
Well, and it really is tough to compare teams from New York to a team down in Texas that plays against schools from Oregon and Louisiana and other parts of the South. But the fact that they do have so many statistical similarities does point that this should theoretically be a close game. What remains to be seen, is whether or not Coach Potter is going to throw in some of these, flea flicker plays that sometimes have worked magically for the Golden Eagles, but kind of backfired against them in the Del Val game. And I would, say if, Del Val's defense was one of the top defenses in the East region, it was part of the big reason why they were able to stage that comeback. Special teams also don't, Brockport fans, keep an eye out for a guy named Wilkerson. He is going to be a lot of trouble in the punt return game, and he's a big reason why Hardin-Baylor has a lot of short fields. So remember, it's a three-pronged game: offense, defense, and special teams. And so they have to play a complete game in all three phases. Ultimately, I do think the overall speed, the experience, I want to pick Brockport to win this game, but history shows that defending national champions on 28-game win streaks usually don't lose in the semifinals. It would be considered a pretty significant upset if they did. I do give Brockport a fighter's chance, though, kind of the way Linfield had, but I do think the Crusaders will probably outlast this one. 24 points seems like a common theme, so I'll say 24-10 or 17.
So here's my view on this a little bit. I'll keep you on here to see your reaction as I say it. One of the things we heard from Joe Germinario last week during our interview with him after the win was he blamed himself on a couple of things that happened on holding the ball too long. And
yep.
I got to believe here, knowing what we know about this defense, Mary Hardin-Baylor being better than last year's in some people's minds, and I can't disagree with them necessarily, to be honest. You lose Tedrick Smith, and Baylor Mullins as well, who's now coach there with them. And yet it seems to be restocked and then some, in the experience from the guys that came back as well, et cetera. So his time to throw is going to be very small. I love the offensive line for Brockport. I think Mark Sanchez getting first team All East, we'll talk about that more in a moment, was well deserved. Yeah. Because when you got basically the read option type of situation that we're seeing from Germinario, blocking for that is a lot tougher because it's not just simply here's an A gap, here's a B gap, this is what I need to block and open up ultimately. You don't know what you have to open up necessarily because you don't know what's going on behind you. He's making the decision on the fly to a certain degree, and yes, obviously in practice you understand where he's going with certain things and what the sideline is telling him to run ultimately from their read on it as well. But Joe is a magician at times and has to basically make it up on the fly. But here, you got to take what you're given. Offensively, you have to take what you're given. On short game especially. And here's the stat that I find incredible as well. In third down conversion percentage, it is number 3 Brockport in the country. 52.4% of the time. So if you can leave yourself, if you're Brockport, third and makeable, you have a good chance based on your own stats to get there.
Did you see what the third down defensive percentage of Mary Hardin-Baylor allows?
Yeah,
this is the biggest stat. This is the biggest stat for this matchup. It's going to come is the third down. You have one of the best third down defenses in the country against the best, basically, third down offense in the country. How that goes will really help decide this game.
Agreed. They have to make it third and makeable. They can't just throw this ball down the field 50 yards and hope for the best. You'll be intercepted more often than not if you try that trick. To open up the run, I understand you want to throw deep balls, maybe connect on one or two, but at least keep them honest on defense. But you can't take the risk, and you can't lose downs like that necessarily as well. The run game will open up if you are successful even in, let's say, short to moderate pass plays, and he's going to have to make his decisions quickly on where he's going with it and what's available to him. You got to watch games where it was closer perhaps to see what was available. Yeah, maybe they sacked quarterbacks left and right, Mary Hardin-Baylor did, but the question is, what did the quarterback leave on the table during those sacks? Was there something available that he checked down or didn't check down to that maybe Joe can? And so that's the question you ultimately have to look at here. That said, I agree with you. I would love to, in my heart of hearts, pick Brockport in this game. If they walk away with the win, we are an East Region show, folks. We're not going to hide the fact that it would be special to see Brockport get to the finals, get to the championship game. But you got to pick with your head when you're doing this job as much as anything to have any kind of integrity. A word I've been throwing around a lot the last few weeks on different journalists, but we won't go there necessarily.
But Brockport should be happy, though. I mean, I picked Frostburg last week.
Yeah, good point. So I'll say Mary Hardin-Baylor wins this game 31-27. to 17. I don't think this is going to be a blowout. I really don't. But hey, I've been wrong before. I thought it was going to be a close one last week with Frostburg, and I thought it was going to be a complete blowout against Washington Lee for Mount Union, and I've been wrong on all accounts with that. But James, we've given our predictions, and earlier we had done an interview with somebody that is very special to me in terms of, how can't you love what this man has done in Mary Hardin-Baylor over the last 20 years? And it's Coach Pete Fredenburg, who has an enormous amount of respect for Brockport, we're about to see. Don't want to give this away. And loves the fact he gets to play a new team. You can tell from this interview coming up. But Coach Fredenburg, 20 years at UMHB, got the national championship win last year. I personally thought he was done at that time. I thought maybe you'd see a retirement announcement. Nope.
Right off.
And he must have known he had a special team. Yeah, exactly. He must have known he had a special team, basically, coming up here as well, and wanted to make it to the number 20. Round numbers are nice. I don't know. In his own words, it's coming up here. So here is UMHB coach Pete Fredenburg with us earlier today. James, it's not every day that we have a future inductee next year, actually, of the Texas Sports Hall of Fame join us, but that is one thing that's happening right now here. We are very honored to have one of the classiest guys in Division III football, I believe, personally, and somebody who didn't laugh too hard at the sport jacket I was wearing last time I saw him during the victory ceremony at Salem, Virginia, at the Stag Bowl. Coach, I promise if you make it back, I will choose a better attire for that event. But thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. And we want to talk to you a little bit about this Brockport game coming up here because a lot of national pundits in Division III are giving that Brockport team no chance whatsoever and looking at your team and saying, this is a team that's even better than the 2016 version, especially on defense. To those pundits, what do you have to say right now? Is this Brockport team something to be reckoned with from what you can see? And what about your own team? How are you viewing this game?
Well, obviously the people haven't seen the Brockport quarterback. He is outstanding. He's an outstanding player. He's very versatile. He can move around in the pocket and hurt you with his feet as well as throwing the ball, and he's got some dynamic receivers. I think they're a very well coached and an outstanding football team, and we are excited to be in this situation, to be practicing in December. But we know what we've got in front of us is a big task, and their defense gives us problems just like the St. Thomas defense did. So we obviously have to do a better job on offense than we did against St. Thomas.
Coach, one of the things looking at the statistics that I noticed is that defensively, both you and Brockport are right in the top 5 as far as being some of the best rushing defenses in the country. Both teams have strong arm quarterbacks. Do you think the passing game is really what's going to help decide this one?
Well, I don't think there's any question that we feel like that our receivers are outstanding receivers, and our quarterback can really throw the ball well. But also we watch Brockport, and their receivers are as equally adept at getting open, and their quarterback is, as I said earlier, is really a dynamic player.
Yeah, Joe Germanario, who we saw last week help power his team to a resilient comeback situation after giving up a 3-touchdown lead, obviously. Your team, however, played a very consistent game against St. Thomas. It wasn't, let's say, blockbuster first half. You didn't obviously go lights out against them, but the second half obviously proved differently, and a little bit of special teams, special sauce, as they say, came in that game as well. What is it that this team is this good? Has there been some luck involved in terms of the 28 games that you've won consecutively now, with defending national champion and bouncing back this year? What is the recipe to your team being this good? And did you see this coming, let's say, a couple of years ago?
The thing that we obviously are very proud of our program, and there's a level of expectation from our players, and it permeates throughout the whole program, and the guys expect to be in this environment. That's what they work to get to. their work ethic off season and into the fall obviously is one of consistency and wanting to get into these kind of ball games in this environment. And I think that expectations of each other is what really moves our football program, as our coaches and our football players expect to be good and expect to be coached well, and then they expect to play well. And so that's kind of, and you go through a process every year of seeing who's going to step up and who's going to be the guys. I think defensively, our front four is playing extremely well, but the thing that's probably the most exciting for me is to see the linebacking core as they grow and develop. They really have turned into some outstanding players. So, we know we've got a big challenge ahead of us, but we're excited about being in the playoffs. We're excited about playing in December.
James, before I let you jump in with another question, I always love to see the signs, the helmets, the things that are next to the coaches when we do these interviews. And to your left, Coach, is a sign that says, "Did you get better today?" And I have a funny feeling that's your mantra around Mary Hardin-Baylor, the way that you guys just keep getting better and better. Is there some dynamic to that approach right there?
That sign, it's an interesting sign. It was over a youngster that played for us years ago, a little receiver. He put it on his ceiling up above his bed. He was tragically killed in a car wreck, but his mom sent me that sign, and I've kept it close to my heart ever since.
Wow.
Quite a story. Coach, speaking of stories, Brian Lester of D3Sports.com wrote an article this week that really pointed to your team's, versatility and flexibility, because it seems like you've had to ask guys to take on different roles. You had one, I think, receiver, Posey, who was going to play quarterback. He did a little bit, but then you've had a few other guys come in. Now, obviously, you're leaning on the freshman who's led your team to several wins now. Kind of walk us through the process of the season and kind of how this team has evolved and how you've had to ask your players to be flexible and to be versatile in some of the different roles that they've been put into.
Well, and that's the thing that we pride ourselves in, of guys being unselfish and doing whatever it takes to help this team be successful. TJ Josie is one of our best athletes, and he was a quarterback in high school. We converted him over to a receiver after he got here. Of course, we had Blake Jackson and some other guys. This year, we felt like that he was a guy that we really wanted to see if he could get back into the quarterback role. And he started out the season there. We realized that we really needed him back at receiver, and we're blessed to have Kyle Jones, who is still here with in a backup role, and then we had a transfer come in named Carl Robinson, and Carl has done an outstanding job. He's a freshman, very gifted, very talented. The big thing to us was that he needed to develop the presence of being the leader of our offense, and I think he's taken that role and experienced the 4 or 5 games that he's played, and he gets better every week.
Coach, this is your 20th year. You are the only head coach of Mary Hardin-Baylor, and for those that don't know, before that, if memory serves, you were at Baylor, you were at LSU, you were at Louisiana Tech as an assistant coach, so you've had Division I, lineage at the very least, or experience. But then you came to Mary Hardin-Baylor, 20 years. You won a national championship last year, kind of got the proverbial monkey off the back scenario by doing that and everything else. And then, you kind of, come back. A lot of people were like, well, this guy's going to retire now. I mean, this is the way to go out. He came back, though, anyway, Coach. You came back. And, I mean, I know you're only like 39 years old and everything, so you started when you were 19.
And counting, yeah.
There you go.
Right.
But what keeps you coming back? I mean, are we going to see you for a number of years to go? Give us kind of some insight here. What keeps you coming back every season to this. You're the only head coach of Mary Hardin-Baylor, obviously, and a lot of people don't want to see that end. So, is it ending anytime soon?
I really don't know. My wife and I talk about it on occasion, but to me, this has never been a job. It's always been fun. It's something that I love to do, and it's a joy to come to work. When it becomes a drudgery, then I'll quit. Right now, I'm enjoying being with the players and the coaches, and as long as my wife supports that and helps me with what I love to do, that's what we're going to do. But, and I'm not naive in that I understand that there has to be a time that you have to look and say, well, there's they're going to have to ultimately retire one day, but right now I have no plans.
I don't mind that one bit. Like I said in the intro, you're one of the classiest guys in Division III that I've ever run across, and it's a true pleasure.
For that. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you very much.
All right, Coach. I got a couple for you. You guys will be opponents to Brockport this Saturday, but now let's sort of step back and think of them more as Division III friends. We have a lot of followers of our program from upstate New York. It's where our show originated. The Brockport faithful have been very positive and supportive of our program all year. A bunch of them are going to be coming down to Texas, some of them for the very first time. Tell as a fan, tell them what they can expect, or maybe some things that they should do over the weekend to really get the full Mary Hardin-Baylor football Saturday experience.
Well, that's interesting that they're coming and they're going to enjoy a nice. I think the weather's going to be incredible. It's like in the 60s, and it looks like it's going to be an awesome weekend. Obviously, the one of the great things in Belton, Texas, is the barbecue. We've got two great places that you kind of just go to the pit and pick it out what you want. Shuff's Barbecue, and then Miller's also are outstanding barbecue places that I would recommend anybody that comes in the area that they need to make sure that they go by and have some barbecue. And then I think the university and the campus and the stadium is an incredible venue, and I think they will enjoy seeing and being at that experience. I think it's going to be an awesome weather-wise, and then it's just going to be an awesome game. As long as the weather cooperates, and the atmosphere is going to be incredible. I just think it'll be a lot of fun for them.
Coach, have you ever? Sorry, one last quick question, Coach, and maybe John could answer this. I know he's sort of off to the side there, but has Mary Hardin-Baylor ever played a team from east of Ohio before? Is this one of the first times you all have ever had a team from New York down?
We played St. John Fisher in the quarterfinals in 2013, and we played Rowan the week before that. So it'll be the third time, and second time we played an Empire 8 school.
That's the voice of John Wallen in the background there, SID and a good friend of ours.
Yes. I should have known that answer myself.
We also came up and played Kane, and we actually had a great trip to Newark and New York, and the people that came with us really enjoyed that. And what was a great memory of that was going to the Statue of Liberty Park. We took our players and looking out over the Hudson, and that was awesome. What a neat experience that was.
Coach, I wanted to take your answer from the previous question that James had asked and go a step further. I was talking to Doug Sherman, who was the play-by-play of the semifinal last year down there for ESPN, and he's actually moved on to other things in ESPN. He's doing the Monmouth, Kentucky game this weekend in basketball, in fact, and he said, flat out, great stadium, great support staff at Mary Hardin-Baylor. And I've not been there since 2008. I'm coming down and flying down to Austin Friday morning and coming up to Belton on Saturday morning, getting my breakfast burrito fix and coming over to the stadium. And I can't wait to see you. and your team as well. These are two teams that I respect greatly in Brockport and Mary Hardin-Baylor. And if the game was 90 to 5, it wouldn't matter to me at the end of the day, because it's going to be an enjoyable experience off the field. But I think on the field, this is going to be a very interesting matchup. I want to give you the last word here with any shout-outs you want to give to any family, friends, players that might be watching or listening, and any other final words you want to give.
Well, I really hope that Brockport has safe travels, and we look forward to them coming. Obviously, we're excited about the opportunity to be playing a team like that. We have great respect for the job that they're doing, coaching and building this program. So I think it's going to be a fun game.
Thank you, Coach. We do appreciate everybody's efforts over there, and I will see you this weekend. Good luck to you and your team.
Thank you very much. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Coach.
And what a great interview. What a great guy there, Coach Fredenburg from UMHB. James, what did you take away from that interview? Your thoughts about him, his program, Belton, Texas? Just go right ahead and fire away.
Well, I mean, he really comes across to me as like the quintessential old ball coach, right? I mean, he's kind of been there, seen it at every level of football. It sounds like he makes sure all his players have the right priorities. He's probably one of those coaches where if you're a minute late to the meeting, you're benched. It's an old school, old fashioned approach. He pushes guys to accept that they're not bigger than the team. Hence the reason why he's had to move some guys around and ask them to play different positions, and they do so and they succeed. So I think he's got all the bases covered, from recruiting to the right sort of type of program. As far as their success on the field and really nothing off the field, which says a lot too. That's seems like everything there is buttoned up, and there's a reason why they're the defending champions and on a 28-game win streak.
So you got a head coach and coach, Jason Mangoni, who is definitely an energetic sort on the sideline. Saw that firsthand at the Del Valle game, but that his team responds to that. And you've got the old ball coach on the other sideline, basically, that the players respond to as well. But he's one of those guys, don't cross him, because I know he's got a temper, as you suggested, and he wants to win. The will to win is there. Don't ever take his sort of laid-back attitude as something other than that. I mean, his pedigree of coming from programs like Baylor and LSU and Louisiana Tech that we talked about speaks for itself. Yeah. You don't do that and become a laid-back coach and win that way. He is hands-on. Don't let it fool you, folks. And when I got to see him at Salem, you could tell just how hands-on he was throughout that week. We'll see if I get to see him again next week, or if we get to see Coach Mangoni and company down there next week. It's going to be a good one. Our predictions are already said. We both lean toward Mary Hardin-Baylor, as you know, but we hold out hope here to see something amazing, at least close game. I know Joe Germinario said during an interview last Saturday that they aren't playing for moral victories here, and they don't want that kind of sympathy. Yep, they're playing to win. So we'll see how it works ultimately. Let's talk about some incredible performances that have led to award and nominations and all whatever teams and everything else here. Mm-hmm. Speaking of Brockport, and I see you changing your paperwork over there. You are ready to go. So I know you're ready here. So first, let's show the slides that we ran on Twitter this week. There's no secret here. Offensive Player of the Year for the All East team in the D3Football.com teams for All East was Joe Germinario, and Coach of the Year was Coach Jason Mangoni. That's not a surprise. Also, we want to congratulate Coach Delane Fitzgerald on his team having 5 members in the 3 various teams here, including Defensive Player of the Year Niles Scott. One of the things that I really enjoyed, JB, about seeing this list, especially looking at the first team, is how many of these guys we either intentionally or unintentionally got to interview throughout this season.
That's true.
What class individuals they are across the board. I enjoyed every single interview we did this year. I got to be honest. And to see those guys on these lists, especially the first team lists in some cases, I'm thrilled for them, because you always want to go back and do another interview with some of these guys. The John Smiths of the world, loved that one. And, you know, the various ones, Jordan Wilcox got to do that interview down at Merchant Marine with him. We'll talk more about him in a second, though. Joe Germanario, Mark Sanchez, learning about his 42 starts, I should say. Don't know if they were consecutive, but 42 starts at the position of center or whatever offensive line position he played during that time. But he's center currently and doing a great job.
Yeah.
These are quality guys. Enjoy them, and so glad to see their success being recognized in something like this.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, it is funny. You kind of look at, Germanario, Smith, Wilcox. We had Mark Sanchez, as you mentioned, Bobby Hayward, who we didn't have on the show, but he got shout-outs from his teammates, Jake Murphy and others from the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy. He had an excellent career for the Mariners, and want to wish him congratulations. Also Niall Scott, who we had on the show, Sean Miller, Jake O'Connell from Brockport, who you spoke with last week, as well as, I believe, Nick Giorgio from Springfield, another first team all conference player for them. So yeah, it is pretty neat to see. And there were some other guys too on the second team, including, I believe, EJ Lee, who was a little more soft spoken when you talked to him down in Montclair. But pretty impressive for him as a sophomore to be second team all region. And really, I think his first year of major action. So, a lot of other names on there that we recognize, and it's great to see.
Nick Bainter.
That's right.
Okay, there's our impression of Nick Bainter.
Our favorite center.
Yes. Mark Sanchez, no offense, but Nick Bainter in his, let's say, yeah, they can't see your hand, but they, bring it in. Nick Bainter in his little behind the scenes on our interview of at the Merchant Marine. There you go. Yeah. One of the classic moments of the year right there.
That was a great one.
Sam Hermana on the linebacker side for Wesley. Nick Wright. For Nick Wright to be second team linebacker tells me how great some of the linebacking was throughout the East region this season. Holy cow.
No kidding.
I mean, so congratulations to all these guys. Here's the third team as well. We got Connor Cox earlier in the season. I know he was in the first team. He was the first team quarterback for all ECAC. ECAC, easy for me to say. Now, that's a little bit of an odd situation. I'm not taking anything away from him. He deserves it. But the ECAC is not all Eastern schools anymore. It's only about 109 members left or thereabouts. And so it's a little bit more sporadic, and also has South and East in there in terms of regions. And a little bit of possibly one or two North teams. I can't remember if that's true or not still. But nonetheless, you can tell from when you look at this, it's got some holes in it, obviously. No Brockport players, for instance, because Brockport is not a member of the ECAC any longer. Hobart, I know, is sort of pulling away a little by little. I didn't see any Hobart players that jumped out there. But so we kind of revert back here to the D3Football.com list because it is comprehensive, but we want to congratulate everyone. Also,
yeah, and I'll give it. I do, Frank, real quick. I do want to give a special shout out though to the Rookie of the Year, Stephon Woodruff from Wesley, as well as the Defensive Player of the Year, Darren Hungerford from Kane. We didn't really. We talked about how Kane was a tough out in the NJAC, but I wanted to give Darren a little extra press time because that's pretty high praise, particularly for a guy who played on was sort of around a 500 ball club. He was really outstanding. Some of his statistics as far as I think he was like third in the nation or something with like 80 solo tackles. That's pretty impressive. And you also have to recognize Wahid Nabi. He was the Liberty League Rookie of the Year, but they're also giving him recognition for all 8 ECAC Rookie of the Year for his great season. And then as far as some other players from our region that bear mentioning, I'd say would include EJ Lee, John Smith, Jordan Wilcox, kind of running down Matt Gona from Wesley, the offensive lineman. He was a Gagliardi semifinalist. Nick Bainter was on that list. A few other folks here and there. Second team, Sam Benger from Carnegie Mellon. We've talked about him in the ECAC bowl games. Kristen DePiola from Frostburg, junior tight end. a couple of SUNY Maritime players as well, and then some guys from RPI like Chris New and Chris Hayden from Springfield and so on. So you can catch that on the ecacsports.com website if you want to check out those. Like you said, Frank, it's not a full picture of the East region, but still for ECAC participating teams, it's nice recognition for those players, particularly the seniors who are wrapping up their careers.
And so you had mentioned Jordan Wilcox in that list of names, and he also made the first team as running back for D3Football.com's All East Region team. So here we put up this picture right now, and there is Jordan Wilcox on the left side, the one of the 4 finalists for the Gagliardi Trophy. What makes this even more special when you think about it is the other 3 players are West Region, and West Region. Nick Holcomb from UW La Crosse. He was the senior wide receiver there, or a senior wide receiver there. Brett Casper, UW Oshkosh, senior quarterback. And Matt Seish, I believe, is the that was good. Correct pronunciation of that. Yeah. If I could talk about anything else.
Junior quarterback from Wartburg, yeah.
You got it. And they'll be joined by Jordan Wilcox from Springfield, senior fullback, in Salem, Virginia, Wednesday evening. I will be hosting the pre and post show for that, and the actual festivities will be handled partially by Pat Coleman from D3Football.com. This is an honor for me because I think this is only the 3rd East Region finalist in the time that I've been hosting this show. I want to say Matt Hoffman from Rowan was one. Joe Callahan, who won it a couple of years ago, who may be starting for the Packers sooner rather than later. You never know. And also Jordan Wilcox, the senior fullback from Springfield, who's got a legitimate chance here.
Yeah, and I want to tip my hat to the Johnny Club just from the fact that 2 of the last 3 seasons we have an Eastern player. I mean, the chances of even getting to this far as an East Region guy are very slim. I've kind of jokingly referred to that this is mostly a Midwestern football award. And the track record proves that, and part of it is true that mostly Midwestern teams have won the national title, so that kind of coincides. But I think it's great that the Johnnies and that committee is looking out for players from sort of outside their area, maybe their comfort zone. And Jordan's a great candidate. He hits all the marks. He's got the football statistics. I think he led the nation in yards per carry. He was one of the top 5 rushers in the nation this season. But he's also a well-rounded young man, and he's been doing a lot of great work with Team Impact, helping kids with cancer. And so he really embodies what I think. I mean, they talk about this as like the D3 Heisman, but it's more than just a football award. It's it's about the whole spirit of Division III sports, which is you're not really going to be going pro in the NFL like Joe Callahan or like Ali Marpet. Really you're going to go on to some other kind of career, and it's great that the club, that St. John's or the Johnny's Club does recognize these individuals in that regard. So, hey, I'm thrilled for Jordan. I was thrilled when I saw the news, and hey, it's going to be a great opportunity for him to go down and see some of the best players in the country. And I don't know if he's going to stick around and watch the Stag Bowl or not, but it'll be a great recognition for him on a great career.
Yep, the Jostens J Club is always putting this
J Club, that's right.
Yep, but it was something that they had wanted to do a while back, get all 4 finalists down there, or their final 4 finalists. They used to do it 1 per region. They stopped doing that once they started doing what they're doing ultimately in terms of bringing them all down, the 4 finalists, that is. And so this is going to be an exciting time for obviously all 4 to get down there and see what it's all about, but also for the ultimate winner. I think I've got my feeling of who wins this ultimately. I'm not going to say as I host a show. I want to be clear about one other thing. I do not vote. I do not have a vote. I did not place a fan vote this year for the simple reason I don't want to influence this in any way, shape, or form. Being the host of that show. As a guy that hosts the East Region show, am I thrilled for Jordan being there? Absolutely. Class individual. I keep using that word today, but I mean, when you get to this point in the season, to see as many classy guys at rising to the top, it's really great for us because we'd like to be part of that. We've seen a lot of unclassy things happen in Division III throughout this season, and when we get to talk about the classy stuff at this point, it makes me really happy and proud to still be a part of this. So, Jordan is from Saratoga Springs, New York, which is literally down the street from where I'm broadcasting this, recording this from here in Ballston Spa. And we'll see what happens Wednesday night. Go to D3Football.com for the live stream, and I'm excited to be part of this one more time. I'm not sure what happens next year when we go down to Shenandoah, Texas for the Stag Bowl. J Club hasn't really told us what their thoughts are. We haven't told them what ours are yet. We'll get to that, I'm sure. But this year, final one in Salem, and somebody's going to take it away and have kind of that extra sauce on the honor there of being the last one awarded in Salem, Virginia, which has run basically the entire time. I think that they've been awarding this, or almost the entire time.
The only thing I have to say to whoever does win the trophy is either pack an extra suitcase or have FedEx on the phone, because you're gonna walk out of there with like a 60-pound trophy.
They actually the last 2 years they got a somewhat smaller one. It's still large. I hate to tell you, but
smaller,
it used to be huge. I think one broke on the travel back one time, and so I think that's where they realized they needed to scale this thing down just a little bit. But it is still a huge trophy, nonetheless.
I will. As we wrap up, Frank, I will step on the soapbox for 1 minute. Unfortunately, I have the day off today, which is great. So I'm enjoying a little peace and quiet before the craziness of the holidays hits. But we want to thank everyone who's watched the program all season long. We've been really blown away with all the positive feedback, the amount of views, the amount of hours watched. And for those who, we don't really talk about our personal lives that much. I mean, I work for a big company. Frank's an attorney. We're not doing this for the money. We're not doing this because we're getting any sort of remuneration or a recognition. Really, it's just because we've loved and been part of Division III football since our college days, and it's because of young men like Jordan. It's people like Joe Callahan and other folks, the people that are on that all ACAC, all region, Joe Germanero. It's because of young men, coaches like Coach Fred, Coach Mangione, that we do this. It's totally because we just respect the heck out of these people. We want to provide a platform. It is the biggest division, but it's the smallest schools. You're not going to see any of these guys on ESPN really, except for one time a year. And so what we're just trying to do is get the word out, because there's some really great people we've been fortunate to get to know over the last 20 years with our affiliation with Division III football. And thanks to you, Frank, we've got this new high-tech platform here. It's all fancy and makes us look, I have to go on a diet, but I can do that this next year. But this is what it's all about, and we're just excited to see how it all wraps up. Starting with the Wednesday Gagliardi Trophy show. Actually starting with the games this weekend. We should probably remind everyone the time when they're kicking off. Wednesday night, and then next Friday night on ESPN when the actual Stag Bowl. And if you want to hear Frank and company, tune into D3Football.com for their audio broadcast.
Yeah, one thing I want to kind of pilot off that for a second is, and I'm probably telling tales out of school I shouldn't tell, but I'm going to tell this one because to me it gets at the heart of our appreciation out there for being appreciated, I guess. And we received a note from someone over at Brockport, I'm not going to name names, saying, look, the staff would love to give you full access to all practices in Texas when we get down there. If you want our itinerary, let us know. I'm not able to take them up on it because I'm flying down to Austin on Friday morning and won't get up to Belton until Saturday. But the fact that they even thought to, this is on their own volition, I didn't ask for this, on their own volition, Brockport offering that was incredible to me, that they would think of us that way, and we are touched by that. We really are. I wish I could take you up on it, but I'm just thrilled that I'm going to be able to be there, win or lose. And I said this to them on Saturday: win or lose, you're getting to do something that how many teams in this country get a chance to do in terms of flying down to Mary Hardin-Baylor and playing in a national semifinal, both those things, okay? There's only 3 or 4 flights a year usually in the entire bracket, and they're going to get one in the 4th week of the postseason. That's incredible.
That's pretty awesome.
Congratulations to them for that. So win or lose, I'm not trying to predetermine this game result, but win or lose, be proud of what you've done. I remember seeing a picture we're probably going on too long here, but I remember seeing a picture from Jordan Wilcox's Twitter feed earlier this week when we were prepping up when he got the Gagliardi Trophy finalist nod there. And it was a picture of Luke Bradley basically in the middle of the team after the loss, I believe, against Hassan. This was posted. And he said how proud of them he was. And to that team, that sort of
Luke
took the sting away. Absolutely. Yeah. And so, you know, I'm no Luke Bradley here. So, I mean, Luke is more a man than I will ever be in terms of what he's faced or what he deals with. And Jordan Wilcox will tell you the same thing, I'm sure. But the point being this, you know, we are proud of you, Brockport, and we are proud of you, Mary Hardin-Baylor, for the class organization you have been and that Coach Fredenburg runs and everything else down there. We are proud of these teams, and to showcase them is an honor indeed. So on Saturday, as you said, at 1 o'clock Eastern time, that's noon Central, where the game's taking place, it's Oshkosh hosting Mount Union. It's available on ESPN 3 or watch ESPN app-wise. Then on Saturday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern time, 2:30 p.m. Central, again where the location of the game is, it's UMHB hosting Brockport. I will be providing, like we did last time or last weekend, a live stand-up from the stadium, and you're going to be joining me, as will possibly Pat Coleman for the pregame, although he's going to be in the throes of a game, obviously, right there. He'll be at the Oshkosh game. So we'll be having some pregame discussion, give you kind of a scene setter before the game starts. So make sure you log in, share it to other people, etc. It will be on Facebook Live. I'm sure James will send it out on Twitter as well. Then we believe I'm going to be able to join you during halftime with James as well, if he's around and available, to sort of give a first half analysis of our own once ESPN is done with the coaches' interviews down there. And then post game, Pat will definitely be joining me, I believe, at least in some recorded video from the Oshkosh game. And we'll be under the D3Football.com banner, I believe, that day. But still the same coverage we gave you on Saturday with two games that we're going to be looking at a little more closely, both semifinals, to discuss who's going to Salem ultimately. So that's our coverage coming up this Saturday. You'll want to join us, obviously, on Facebook Live and watch the ESPN3 broadcast this Saturday. I think that's it.
All right.
Folks, thanks for joining us again, and we will see you next week, regardless, win or lose for Brockport. We'll come back at least one more time to haunt you, to give you great information here on In the Huddle. Thanks for joining us.